Yes, and a very good evening to you, and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. I'm David Hines, of course, keeping your company here for the next 90 minutes or so. I want to welcome everyone, whether you're joining us from in Guyana or in the wider Caribbean, whether you're joining us from further afield in North America, in Europe. I want to welcome you um, on to Politics 101, the program where we talk everything politics, but we do so in a way that at the end of the day, we are educated, mobilized, and ready for the struggle, because this is part of the largest struggle for justice, the largest struggle for equality. Um, we are, of course, concentrating on Guyana because that's our homeland, but we are part of a larger region, a larger hemisphere, and a larger world. And often we get caught up in our own little politics that we forget that there is a world around us. Um, those of you who live in North America, of course, would have been quite taken up with the politics there in America. Um, we had the Democrats losing the governorship in Virginia and barely holding on in New Jersey. Quite a shocker for those who have been following American politics. Not a shocker for me, because depends on your point of departure. For a lot of people, the Democrats are being taught a lesson by those who feel that the Democrats have done nothing since they took office last year. Of course, they have a slight majority in the House. They basically have a tie in the Senate and, of course, the presidency. And people feel that they have not delivered. We know that those two big spending bills that the president has proposed is being held up in Congress because of the stubbornness of two senators, Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema. American politics have its own peculiarities, and one has to take that into consideration. The question is, why Mr. Biden was able to win Virginia by 10 points. And a year later, the Democrat is not able to win. And people are saying that the question of critical race theory may have played a big issue, that the Democratic candidate said that parents should not have a say in what is being taught in the schools. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, the whole issue of what is taught in schools should be the purview of the education departments. And if citizens are to have anything to do with what is taught in schools, then they put it on the political agenda. You know, in America, there are initiatives and referenda that you can ask, do you want critical race theory to be taught in schools? Yes or no? I don't think Virginia has that on its book. But really, if you start getting parents telling us what they want us to teach their children in school, then where does that end? I'm a professor, and if a parent called me and asked me for the scores of their child, for the grade of their child, I can't. I'm prohibited by law from giving parents the grades of their children. I'm prohibited by law. But now we are saying those same parents must be able to tell me what I should teach in the classroom. That's nonsense, utter nonsense. And the fact that people voted against the Democratic candidate because of that, it means that they're not voting for education. It's dog whistle. They do not want their children to be taught about race. And they're prepared to throw the Democratic Party under the bus because of that. Let's call a spade a spade. You turn on the media and you hear them talking about, the Democrats lost because of this. I am putting my bet here that if the Democrats had passed those two bills before election day on Tuesday, they might have done a little bit better. I don't have any doubt about that. But I think the outcome would have been the same because the American non-Black electorate, when it comes to the issue of race, they have a different attitude. Take New Jersey. New Jersey has passed the transportation bill. A lot of this, what's in the big spending bill that Biden has proposed, they've passed that in New Jersey. Yet Pat Murphy only won by a point. So the point I'm making is that even if those big bills were passed in Virginia, the bills were passed at the federal level, I don't think the outcome in Virginia would be different. Virginia is a southern state, and most of those white people there have a problem with race. Even white liberals are going to go with you in terms of progressive politics up to a certain point. Once you want to deal with the question of race, you lose them. And that's the issue that I think the Democrats have to figure out. How are they going to explain this question? What is critical race theory? Critical race theory is what we've been saying all the time, that racism in America is a systemic phenomenon. That's what we teach in critical race theory. And it's called critical race theory because it's a theory of race that takes a critical look. That race is not, I call you the N word, you call me the B word or the C word or whatever word it is. That race is systemic. That's what critical race theory is. And half of the white population don't want their children to be taught that. It's as simple as that. And they're prepared to throw whichever party is under the bus that supports critical race theory. So that's the politics there in the United States of America. Let's come closer to our Diana. Today is Diwali Day. We want to wish our Hindu brothers and sisters and the larger Indian community, Indian Guyanese community, happy Diwali. It's the festival of light. And light, of course, means progress, light means happiness. Light means a decency. The Festival of Lights is more than just the physical lights, but, light up my life. Brother Bob Marley said, no sun will shine in my day today. The high yellow moon won't come out to play. Darkness has covered my light and turned my life. Darkness has covered my life and turned my night into day, according to Bob Marley, using the image of the light. Light means happiness. And on this festival of light, I hope our Hindu brothers and sisters and the larger Guyanese community take the lesson of Diwali and take the spirit of Diwali and make it an advance on what we are now and where we are. Because this year Diwali comes at a very grim time in Guyana. Grim because 1 year and 3 months after an election was decided by forces other than the voters, we are reaping the consequences. We are reaping the consequences of that mistake. Whenever you install a government, whether it's installed by rigged election, whether it's installed by regime change, whenever you install a government, you are going to bring about short-term satisfaction to those who have been installed. But it will have medium and long-term consequences to the country. Because, especially in a divided society, that installation has consequences for those who are deemed the losers. It also has consequences for those who are deemed the winners. Those who are deemed the winners will be triumphant and will act triumphantly. And those who are deemed the losers will be defiant and will act defiantly. The clash of triumphalism and defiance is a hell of a clash. And that's the clash we've had for the last year and a quarter. When you are in the process of making history, you don't always realize what's happening. 1 and a quarter year later, you can look back and say, let me see the road we have traveled. And you're able to look back and to see the dynamics there. When you're in real time, it's very difficult sometimes to see the dynamics. Thank God, and thanks to those who have, as a consequence of the election last year, rearranged the media landscape. What it means is that when one door is shut, another door is open. And so we have had mushrooming all over these little talk shows, as they call them, where we gather and we talk daily, every evening, every morning, and we analyze the issues of the day. Never in my life, and never in my observation of Guyanese politics, all these 40-odd years, never have I seen a Guyana so mobilized, because every single day you can tune into one of these shows and you are hearing what's happening today, what's happening now. And you're hearing discourses about it. It means that you are informed in real time. And information has an effect on education and analysis. And that in turn has a big effect on action. And then there is the action that you play out for the world to see. And there is the action that you play out when the world is not watching. There is a place that you retreat to when you don't want those who are oppressing you to see. 1 and a quarter year later, we are here today with this dynamic that perhaps our people are more informed about politics today than they have ever been in our post-colonial history. And we take that information for granted because, of course, when people are frustrated, when people are being kicked down, they want to get out from under those boots as quickly as possible. And they want to go straight for the juggle. They want to go to the oppressor and to stick their finger in his eyes right away. They want instant relief. But politics is not an instant phenomenon. And so, as you constantly, every day, inform ourselves and mobilize ourselves, we are influencing shifting of the ground. As I said 2 nights ago on Politics 101, we are noticing shifts on the part of the oppressor. And those shifts are not because the oppressor has had a change of heart. No, the oppressor is going to be more gangster than they were yesterday. But they can no longer take us for granted. They can no longer take us for granted, and they understand that. And that's a victory for you, for us, who've been toiling these last 15 months, trying to hold ourselves together and hold the opposition together and hold our country together. And what is beautiful about this journey in the last 15 months is that it's a journey not taken not just by Guyanese in Guyana, but Guyanese outside of Guyana. The brotherhood and the sisterhood of Guyanese has been in full bloom. And the effect of our witnessing, maybe it has not been self-evident, but it has taken its toll on those who have arrogated unto themselves ownership, sole ownership of Guyana. Resistance is constant. Resistance sometimes acts like a thief in the night. Resistance sometimes manifests itself in active ways, and in a lot of time manifests itself in ways that can rock the boat. The politics of undermining is a hell of a politics. Is a hell of a politics. Mark my word. I've been in it. I've been doing the politics of undermining for 40 odd years. And oh God can tell the tale. The Guinea border holler, now they yell later what Teacher George tell books. Teacher George, a UF man come and you share outside, didn't notice you been stand up there. I buy. The Guinea border holler, yell. That's what the politics of undermining does. You holler ya, and you lay there. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Welcome Lorraine, Yonette, Timmy, Lynette, Vibert. These are regular names on Politics 101. Welcome. And this evening, we are going to talk to members of the Workers' Alliance at WPA. We have been, most of our guests have been from the PNC. They are members of the PNC. We don't bring them on necessarily as PNC. We bring them on to share their expertise. But we have had on all meetings and so forth with PNC members as they prepare for their Congress. And next week we are going to have Monday. We are having Mr. Joseph Harmon on Monday. On Tuesday, we are having Roycedale Ford on for part of the program. Roycedale Ford has thrown his hat into the ring for the second most powerful position in the PNC, effectively the deputy leader of the PNC, the chairmanship. And then the second half of the program, we're going to have two GCOM commissioners, Desmond Trotman and Vincent Alexander, two of the three GCOM commissioners. They're going to be here on Tuesday to tell us what's happening at GCOM. As you know, they're trying to rig the recruitment process at GCOM, Gokul Budu, and some of the people who have been fingered in the past with rigging elections. They have applied. They seem to be trying to fix the application criteria for people like Budu to win. And so there is a hell of a struggle going on over there. And so we're going to have those two commissioners joining us next Tuesday to tell us what's happening at GCOM. Vincent Alexander and Desmond Trotman, two of the three GCOM commissioner. The third one is Charles Corbin. And as you know, the opposition has three, the PPP has three, and then the chairperson who is supposed to be neutral. Many people are arguing that the PPP really has four, because since the impasse last year, the chairperson has been voting with the three commissioners from the PPP. So lots have been said and are being said about the implications of that. But tonight we are going to talk to members of the WPA. As you know, the WPA was part of the coalition that governed between 2015 and 2020. It was a junior partner in the APNU, founding member of the APNU, along with the PNC. The APNU was really founded between the PPP, the PNC, and the WPA in 2011, and then other parties came in afterwards. The WPA was part of a junior part of the government. It had one cabinet member, Rupert Rupnarayan, who served for a couple of years as education minister and then was demoted by the leader, by the president, to Minister of the Public Service. And when ill health forced Dr. Rupnarayan to step down, Tabitha Sarabo took up that position on behalf of the WPA. And last year when the elections were over, there was an impasse between the leader of the coalition, who did not grant the WPA the customary courtesy of choosing their one representative to go into parliament. He chose a representative for them, a kind of a reflection of how he governed. And that was the final straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, and the WPA left the coalition. Since then, all of the candidates who are running for higher office have said that they want the WPA to come back into the coalition. All of the candidates have said that. And so there must be, I presume, some kind of role for the WPA. But we have seen some press statements over the last year by the WPA. We saw the WPA organizing in August 3 protests on the East Coast. So they've been there and thereabout. And tonight we're going to talk to them about their party and how they see the political situation and how they see themselves as a party playing the role. I know on this program, on Bostonian Morning Time, a lot of you have been calling for the WPA to become part of the process again. Well, tonight, you'll have a chance to hear from the WPA members. And I have the pleasure of having 3 executive members. 2 of them are well known to you. Kidaki Amsterdam, who's the host of Bostonian Morning Time. Dion Abrams, who has been on this program several times. A school teacher and longtime member of the WPA. And Ali Majid, who is an executive member of the WPA and who's appearing on this program for the first time. Gentlemen, welcome to Politics 101.
Good evening, Dr. Hines.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Hines and viewers. Thank you for having me.
Good evening to you, Dr. Hines, and to all the viewers. It's a pleasure being on the program.
We're getting some music from somebody's. Okay, gentlemen, welcome. As you heard in the introduction, we wanted to chat with you and to basically get a feel for what the WP has been doing. I said in the introduction that you all have been you all were part of the coalition and then left the coalition last year. And you have been putting out some press releases and so on and so forth. But tell us, what has the WPA been doing in the last year? And I'll start with you, Dion Abrams.
Okay, well, the WPA has been pretty active as a political party. I think we have been dealing with the major political issues that arise each week. The platform that is established by Kidaki, the Kidaki Kidams television, has been adding a lot of valuable insights into issues that are taking place, current political issues. The Walter Rodney groundings have also been dealing with.
What is the Walter Rodney groundings, Mr. Abrams?
The Walter Rodney groundings is a weekly television program that is hosted on Channel 9, HBTV Channel 9 at 5:30 on Sundays. And a lot of the discussions are with WPA people. Sometimes we have people who are not members of the WPA, but a lot of the ideas are what WPA represents. And so Brother Takuma, Brother Ali Majid would have been on the program, Desmond Shotman, and we also deal with the GCOM commissioners. We've had Vincent on the program, and this weekend, in fact, just as you're going to be speaking with Brother Vincent and Brother Trotman, on Sunday I have them on the Walter Rodney groundings also.
So you're the host of Walter Rodney groundings?
Yes, I'm the host of Walter Rodney.
And it's on at 5:30 on Sunday evenings. Okay.
But the WPA, and I will allow Kidaki to our Brother Majid to speak about that, but you mentioned in your introduction that we have been at the forefront of organizing communities to take action against political concerns. And so we've had a number of protests on the East Coast, and Kidaki will talk about his activism that he would have been involved in. We've been throwing a lot of weight into discussions relating to the quest for domination by the PPP. And so we have engaged the IRI in their quest to intervene in the constitutional arrangement of Guyana. And I think that's a valuable thing, that we are being a part of the process and influencing possibly the outcome of those discourses. So our presence on GCOM is not to be taken lightly. I think Brother Trotman is a powerhouse in his own right, and he has been making valuable contributions in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Dion. Ali Majid, a brother WPA member said that you all have been intervening. What else has the WPA been doing in the last year? They're only seeing part of your head, so you'll probably, yes.
Over the past year, and a bit longer than that, we have been internalizing in the WPA. One, what is our future role in the political life of Guyana, especially since we broke away from the coalition. We have been reorganizing ourselves in not too distant future. We should be making some announcements with respect to what the structure would look like and persons who would be in those positions. In addition to that, as Brother Dion had said, we had engaged the IRI on some discussions with respect to electoral reform, political reform, and we have been making our inputs at those meetings with them. And we would think that our contributions to the discussion with the IRI would perhaps be felt a little bit later when the IRI has finalized what the program would look like. The WPA, as all you would know, that we have a long history, and where we are now this last year, we perhaps would also need to take a look at where we came from to understand where we are now. The WPA, we have contested elections before, since 1985, 1992, 97, and the like. So at this point in time, we are now reflecting where we are with respect to electoral politics, what it is we do as a party, and how best we function within the milieu of what is in the political sphere of this country at this time.
Reflecting on the party of last year, of course, was a pivotal moment in Guyanese history, and all parties should obviously reflect on what that moment means going forward. Kidaki, Brother Majid has talked about the internal discussions. Dion has talked about some of the work that has been done in communities. Has there been an assessment of the general political situation in the country by the WPA?
Well, WPA's discussion, examination, discussion, assessment of what's happening in the country politically has always been ongoing. And pronouncements from time to time are constantly being made. One of the things which person might not notice or might not have paid attention or made an association to is the fact that I think every week Takumo Gonse has several letters to the press secretary. Mike Thomas is doing his own work as a columnist. He, yourself, and I, along with others, are constantly on Camps TV doing work. All of those things come together to represent what the WP is doing and how WP is assessing the current political situation. Dion has mentioned an interaction with the IRI. I think viewers need to know that that interaction basically came up with the assessment of the political situation that WP is always involved in, because when it was announced that the IRI was going to be doing work to amend, if I can say that, the electoral laws of Guyana, WPA came out very early and made contact with the representatives of the IRI, and I think publicly to say, well, look, we don't believe that the IRI should be the body which is going to lead this. This is a Guyanese thing, and Guyanese ought to be involved in this process, and more so, Guyanese ought to lead in this process. So those are some of the results of the WP's consent assessment.
Dion, let me bring you in here, and I'll pose the question to you also. Does the WPA feel that what happened last year warrants a very serious assessment of where our politics are? And so therefore, uh, 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 needs a new kind of intervention. Is that the kind of discussion that you all have been having?
Well, you have to look at that from two fronts. You yourself mentioned the fact that the WPA was a part of a coalition, that we were basically the part of the genesis of the APNU. And throughout the life of the APNU, the WPA was treated by Granger in particular as somewhat of a non-entity. I think to our own discredit, and we allowed it to happen because we felt that uh, we did not want to seem to be, you know, creating conflict at a time when the country needed to be moving forward with the coalition. But the straw that broke the camel back you mentioned was when, again, after having done it before, he decided that he would not allow the WPA to choose its own member of parliament, and so we left. Um, that is one phenomenon that
So that you all have been doing an assessment of the
role of
coalition's time in office.
right, and
Uh-huh.
the role of the WPA in that activity. We've been assessing basically whether we allow uh, too much of leverage by not pulling out earlier or not making our voices heard in a more forceful way, so that what transpired to our pulling out would not have been the event. And there are lots of issues that we've discussed in terms of what happened during the time of the APNU in office and the coalition's relationship with the WPA and other big parties that were involved. Um, but also, we have taken a real close look at the events of surrounding the elections, and we have drawn conclusions about, the intervention of the Republican Party, the current nature of the PPP and its actions against uh, Afro-Guyanese in particular, the racist nature of the party, and the current quest nomination of the people of the country, and in particular Afro-Guyanese in the country by the PPP, and also
Well,
they,
well,
they
Leon.
yeah their move towards dictating the whole GCOM machinery and putting in place a system that is going to ensure they're being there entrenched upon the Guyanese people for eons of years. And
I'm going to come back to that. Let me take you all back. First of all, you said you all did an assessment of the coalition in office. Let me ask you, Ali Majid, coming out of that assessment, have you all come to the conclusion? How has the WPA seen the tenure of the coalition in office? Did the coalition make a difference during those 5 years?
I think the answer would be mixed. When the coalition came into office in May 2015, it was needed. I think there was a euphoria among large segments of the population for wanting the coalition in place. Having that, having had that in place, things did not go as well as we as a partner would have liked. We could have hardly influenced any decision.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm asking,
Uh,
what is the WPA's evaluation of the performance of the government, notwithstanding all of that, situation with the WPA and not being treated well? I'm asking, you said your party has done an evaluation of the government in office. Does the WPA think, not Ali Mujid, does the WPA think that the coalition made a difference?
I think the coalition did make a difference.
WPA
In
think so?
it, I think so. They did make a difference in many areas. There were many areas unsolved with respect to a lot of services. Um, you may look at simple things like the passport offices and so. You may look at the question of water in different areas. GWI, under Mr. Dr. Van Les Charles, they installed many miles pipelines and brought those services to people. They have reached out to the pensioners in large measure. They've moved the pension from, it was 13,000, I think it was 200 to 18 or 19,000 when they left. And many other areas that the corruption had seemed to be abated. People had felt at ease that you don't have to have somebody in some place to get some service done for them. In the question of the activity with crime, while they were criminal activity and they continue to have, they were, when crimes were committed, they were solved in large measure. So I would think to say that the coalition did make an impact on people's lives. Now, having said that, I must say many people are still disappointed in what was done.
How does the WPA know that? How does the WPA know that people were disappointed?
Well, they've been saying that over many places, on the streets, on shows, as shows like this one, and they've been making the complaints to people wide and far. They even been making the complaints to people in the PNC itself. Because
does the WPA share that view? Does the WPA share that view?
That people were not satisfied?
No. Does the WPA share the view of the people that there were areas of dissatisfaction by the government?
Yeah, we share the view, and we've had people come reporting to us, the different members of the party, of things that have been happening to them, and where they cannot get government services. People will tell you that they try to get a house, that's not all they run around they get. People will tell you, many people will tell you perhaps they expected too much, that they were a campaign how long during the elections and blah, 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 and they got a particular minister and people just turned them away. So there were great dissatisfaction among many people, coalition supporters.
Mr. Amsterdam, anything you want to add to what Ali Majid just said there from the WPA perspective?
Certainly, I think Ali has given a fair representation of what the WPA has gathered. Yes, we believe that the coalition did some amount of work, brought improvement to people's lives, but certainly did not do as much as it could have done and perhaps as it ought to have done. In terms of people's dissatisfaction, you and I, along with other members of the WP, have been going across the country and meeting folks in communities. And we have been gathering the same kind of information that people are dissatisfied. People were not pleased with many things which took place under the coalition, despite the fact we observed that things were done to improve people's lives.
Dion, let's move to the next issue, and this is the election itself. There have been two narratives of the election. One narrative is that the PPP won the election because the PNC attempted to rig the election. The other narrative was that the elections were inconclusive given the PPP's accusations, but even more importantly, given the anomalies that came up during the recount. The second narrative is that the elections were inconclusive and there was not a clear winner of the election. What's the WPA's view as it relates to those two narratives?
Well, clearly, we understand the fact that, I mean, we went through all the agony of the court cases and so on. And we understood that the recount really was a legal process. And it should have never happened in the first place. But be that as it may, we mentioned the satisfaction about the coalition. One of the key dissatisfactions was that the coalition was governing in a cocoon that you could not give advice to those who were part of the government, and particularly the leader of the coalition, so that the idea that government and political parties were not really to be influencing what government did was the most idiotic kind of idea. And so, sorry about that. Yeah, so the elections came, and our view is that the results were inconclusive. The fact is, you cannot have 48 boxes that were clearly not part of the process. You don't know where they came from because there was no documentation or anything in them to say that they actually were part of the process. And uh, they I mean, it's amazing that you've had decisions that were looked in this recount that you were initially, the chairman said that they must be put aside, and then eventually they moved to the position that the recount was all inclusive, that these boxes that had all these questions should also be counted as valid votes and so on. So in the milieu, and I still get a sense, as you were pointing out the other day, that the narrative of rigging only by the PNC continues to float about the place, and people, even though the evidence is clear now, as you said on the program only yesterday or so, that the evidence is clear now of how the PPP would have been rigging throughout the years. The recount exposed that. But you speak to people who are supposed to be sensible, and they still make it appear that this thing never happened. You see, and it's mind-boggling that people continue to view the rigging, because the PPP continues to spread that message that the PNC and the APNU attempted to rig the elections and failed, when they themselves were major players in that rigging, right? And so we cannot accept that the PPP won the elections, despite how much, I mean, Irfan Ali wants people to say that the government is legitimate. It is not legitimate because the elections were not conclusive.
The elections were not conclusive. Can let me bring you in here before I go back to Mr. Ali Majid. The WPA held a number of community meetings. I think 20 community meetings before election in 2019. And I know that you were part of a lot of those meetings, if not all. Can you share with our audience some of what the WPA picked up as it relates to the election that was coming?
I'm admitted I can't take it now.
But guys, your internet is perhaps unstable. I didn't get your questioning clearly.
No, I mentioned that the WPA held a number of public meetings, community meetings before the 2020 election. And I was asking what were some of the things that you picked up on those elections, on those meetings, as they were going on.
Well, when we were conducting meetings across the country in 2019, thereabout, what we picked up in many of the communities basically was the people's dissatisfaction with the coalition. There was a big fallout. Persons were so dissatisfied that for the greater part, many of them basically said that they weren't going to vote, and they were disappointed with the coalition and so on. But coming out of those meetings, what I can say is, despite the fact that there was such so much dissatisfaction, we were able to reason with folks, right? We were able to reason with folks and get them to understand the importance of voting, and also get them to understand the importance of voting for the coalition. As a matter of fact, some might say we went out there in 2019 to prepare the pitch, right? We did a lot of pre-election work. If you want to say, to appease the electors and help them to come to a place where they recognize that yes, the coalition was doing stuff. It perhaps wasn't doing them fast enough. It perhaps wasn't doing what they wanted when they wanted. But it was also important to vote, and so that the work that the coalition started could have continued. To a large extent, I believe we were successful in those meetings, because when we left with the undertaking from people that they were going to reconsider their positions, um, and so I see those meetings as being rather important, because even while doing that and picking up the dissatisfaction of folks, we were also able to gather information about some of the quote unquote strategies that were being utilized in the communities by PPP operatives and so on, and to a large extent plan how to counter that.
Let
But
me
I think,
bring, let
David,
me bring, go ahead, go ahead.
we have to look at the genesis for those meetings, I think, because the genesis was because
That's Dion Abrams. I'm not
yeah,
seeing him.
we got the feedback about the dissatisfaction and the apathy, that the growing apathy among APNU supporters, and we felt that we needed to go out there and let them understand the importance of being part of the election and not withholding their vote, because we got that feedback from so many people that they were not going to vote again for the APNU and that they were not going to vote for any political party. And so we took that leap and we began going into the communities and speaking to people and urging them to come out and support, even if they felt aggrieved by the actions of the, as your message would be, if you felt aggrieved by the PNC, then vote for the WPA as the coalition. If you felt aggrieved by the AFC, vote WPA, so that you have a choice in the milieu of parties in the coalition. And I think it was effective, but I don't get the sense that it was as effective as we would have wanted, because across the country, and if you look at the statistics, in many communities, even in Buxton here, the voter turnout as against 2015, and the kind of enthusiasm and vigor and the eagerness in people to champion the cause of the APNU, that was totally lost. It was absolutely, gone. And so the APNU really did a disservice to itself by the way it governed.
Ali Majid, let me bring you in here, and if you can turn your phone down or off, it would help us. Ali Majid, let me bring you in here. Is Ali Majid with us? Ali Majid is with us?
Yes.
Yes, Ali. So the WPA has gone out of the coalition, and there have been calls by members of the PNC, leaders, especially those who are running, some of them who are running for office. And on shows like this, people have been calling for the WPA to re-enter the APNU. Have you gotten any formal requests from persons within the opposition for you to return to the APNU? And secondly, have you all been discussing this issue within the party?
Well, with respect to getting a request, we had written to the chairman of the APNU, this would be in last year, September, I think it was, of that we were open for a meeting at a mutually convenient time, but we haven't had a response since then. We have been thinking about coalition politics because I think we're at a part in the history of this country where perhaps coalition politics is where we need to go. And it's very important for us to give a serious thought as to what it is we would do. We had contested elections on our own in 85, 92, and then we also joined with one party in 97 and another one in 2001. And from after that, we always went in with some other party in the APNU in 2011 with the coalition, the broader coalition in 2015 and 2020. It's something we got serious thoughts about because we felt the way how we were treated, it didn't argue well for people like us to be making contribution to the broader good and not having your views being respected. At times we at meetings with the APNU, when with the chairman presided as Mr. Granger, we've raised serious issues with him, and he did not respond to those issues. I could give you a particular instance here. As you may know about the what is called described as the Boxon proposal, the cash transfer. That thing was placed in the domain, was made as a proposal to the APNU, and it was not acted on. It was just very late, maybe sometime early 2020 or very late 2019. Then there was some talk about cash transfer, but it was never really embraced. So we have found that our proposal, our views had cold water thrown in it. So while we think that we should perhaps participate in coalition politics, we still have to see if that is the best thing for us. There are many things that we have to weigh. We have to look at. There are many things we have to look at to make a decision as to which way to go. We haven't reached there yet.
But the party, in principle, still embraces coalition politics.
Yes. We haven't ruled it out.
You have not ruled out coalition politics. Leon, you would like to add anything to the whole notion of coalition politics going forward?
Well, the fact is that the kind of treatment that the WPA received under David Granger's stewardship would have informed our position in terms of how we move forward with coalition politics. As you would have known, the AFC had an accord with the APNU, which dictated how the terms and conditions for the relationship. But we took it, that we were dealing with people who were genuinely, interested in real coalition politics, and that they understood the importance of what a partnership meant. And we were totally misguided in our thoughts. And so the WPA, in reviewing its idea for involvement in coalition politics, we are saying that we are not going down the road of taking people for granted anymore. That if we are going to be involved, then there must be an agreement, some chartered, some written condition for our involvement. Because what Granger did to the WPA is really an assault on the dignity of the party and every member who would have been representing that political party.
And I must add that what he did to the WPA, and he ended up doing to his own party. Part of the mess that has happened. I'm there. Kilaki, let me get you back in here, and let's talk about what is the WPA's view on the role of third parties in Guyana politics. If you go back to the 1960s with the United States, then we come to the WPA, and then we come to the AFC. It seems as if third parties in our divided society is not their role is not as straightforward as the two big parties. What are the difficulties, first of all, of third parties in Guyana's situation? And then to all of you, what can be done to make third parties more effective as electoral parties? It seems that third parties are good at protest, and the society tends to embrace them. But when it comes to electoral politics, given the zero-sum nature of our politics, it becomes problematic for them. Is there a role for third parties? What are the challenges? And can those challenges be overcome? Kiraki, you first.
Well, certainly there is a role for third parties, and the WP has always recognized the importance of third parties. I usually mention the fact that I've been around the WPA since in my teens. And throughout the time, up until now, I think WPA has recognized its the importance it has as a third force, as we usually say, in this country. Importantly, I think the WPA has always seen itself as that balance between the two bigger parties. I remember several times when the WPA would have had its representatives in Parliament. Lucy Kwano, Desmond Trotman, I think.
Clive Thomas, Rupner,
right.
before Trotman, yes.
Right. At all times, when it came to critical decision making in the Parliament, when critical matters were to be voted on, the WPA always considered what would benefit the country, and it threw its support behind whichever side that was on the side of what would benefit the country. And so it has been an important role. I think the WP has played that role over the years, and and continues to be willing to play that role. In terms of the challenges of third party in this country is they're tremendous. In that you said, for example, people recognize the importance or their ability to protest. But at the same time, people do not embrace third parties the way they could be embraced in order to give them a bigger say in society. Since I've been around the WPA, persons have always turned to the WPA to solve their problems, whether it's labor-related or otherwise. And WPA has always stepped up to the platform and work with people in solving those problems. As a matter of fact, I know you like to talk about Brother UC's activism in communities. In my mind, WPA has been integral in the establishment of community-based organizations to improve people's lives throughout its existence, or certainly throughout the number of years that I've been around it. And so it has been doing important political work. The WPA, through UC Kwan, has filed several private criminal charges against public officials. And so it has been doing important, if I can call it, judicial work, law and order work and stuff. But while people recognize that and they cheer you on for that, they do not come to the party, or they have not come to the party over the years in large numbers to really bolster, strengthen the party so that it can play a bigger role at electoral politics, right? And so you're good for activism and so on, but when it comes to electoral politics, you are seen as a small party. And people will tell you that, listen, to support the WPA or the third party at an election is to split the vote of a particular group. and reduce the chances of winning an election. And so it is important for them to go and put their vote behind this quote unquote big party, of which the big parties in this country are seen as the PNC and the PPP. And so when it comes to election time, everybody or most people put their support behind either the PNC or the PPP, and the WPA or small parties are generally left in the cold until after the election, when people need the kind of support that these small parties have been presenting. In terms of how to fix that, I believe that recognizing the work of the WPA in particular, because I think the WPA has done good work throughout its years of existence in this country on the side of the people. I believe more people need to, as we like to say, put your money where your mouth, they put their support behind the WPA. So no longer will we refer to the WPA as a small party, but we recognize the WPA as an important party in the realm of things in this country. WPA currently is of the firm opinion that coalition politics is the way forward, right? Coalition politics is the way forward. And if citizens were to recognize the importance of coalition politics, they will also recognize the importance of strengthening the WPA to make it, quote unquote, an equal partner with whichever of the larger parties that it chooses to coalesce. Because coming out of the last coalition, the AFCP and WPA, one of the lessons learned is, despite the fact that WPA has done a lot of work leading up to the elections and during the elections, the leader of the coalition, David Granger, continued to see WPA as small and insignificant. As a matter of fact, one of his arguments, as I understand it, is that the WPA did not bring enough votes to the coalition, and so it could not get more than a seat. And as a matter of fact, it didn't even have the right to decide who occupy that seat. And so if people really want the WPA to play the role which it is capable of, it is important that they show.
Let me ask you, you were talking about what people should do to empower the WPA. What should the WPA be doing, and what is the WPA doing to get to the outcome that you are talking about?
Well, certainly the WPA has to first and foremost market itself. The WPA has to be there with the people, make its case to the people.
You mean, what you mean by market? You know, that's a loaded term.
When I just said make its case,
for example, we talked about the WPA going into communities, right? So the WPA is already doing that kind of work. How is the WPA translating those community intervention into membership, for example? Are you all recruiting members? Where can people go if they want to join the WPA? That is what I want to hear from you all. You all have made the analysis as to the objective, how Granger treat you all, and so on and so forth. What are you doing on your own as a party to bring people into the party? You have a captive audience here tonight. Talk to that audience.
Well, like I said, I'm making the case. I think, for example, every time I get the opportunity in Boxtonia morning time, I will say, which is a fact, the WPA is open to membership. And there and then
You've been recruiting members.
Yes, we've been recruiting members.
And how has that been going?
Persons have been responding favorably. Might not be in the numbers you expect.
I'm not asking you that. If someone, and because there are people in this audience may want to join the WPA, what should they do?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If someone wants to join the WPA, they can reach out to me, for example, on CAM's TV page, or they can message me on 6225933, and I can immediately send them an e-form, which they will fill out and submit online, right? And in due course, we will respond to that. In terms of
Ali Majid, let me bring you in. Why in 2021, November, should people join the WPA?
Okay. The WPA is a party which has had a history of struggling with the working class in this country. They have stood out as a party, as one which can represent the interests. The WPA has not been in the grips of, let me say, big business, nor are we in the grasp of any external powers. Our strength lies in our membership, and we have been representing people. And I think if the broader people out there recognize what the WPA is, they would perhaps come into us and have a discussion. We, as a small party as we are, we would be meeting groups of people at different times and talk. But then we got this broader thing of people, they like to see what we call big names. And unless they see this big name, they don't really come forward. They will
Don't
chat
the
with you.
WPA have big names? The last time I checked, the WPA it has some very big names.
Yes, but those people want those big names, shoulder to shoulder, wherever they are in the marketplace and those kind of
Okay,
stuff.
okay. Dear Abrams, let me get you in. Let me get you in. Um, why someone in November of 2021? What is it about this moment in our politics? We had an election. The elections are over. The coalition was thrown out of office. People are restless. Is the WPA the type of party for this moment?
The WPA has been a political party for every moment since its existence.
But talk to this moment. I want you to talk to this.
So, but we have to look at it historically because
Yeah, but we have done that. We have done that.
we have not
We've
done
done
it
that.
because
People want to know. Now you have AFC in your opposition coalition. You have the PNC. You have the WPA. Why should they join the WPA as opposed to other parties? I want to make your case.
the WPA has consistently been putting forward ideas that are going to benefit Guyana and Guyanese.
Yes, we
Right?
got that. But
We
people,
have
listen,
also,
hold on, brother. People are angry at the opposition in general for not defending them. Black people are saying the opposition is shying away from the racial discrimination that's going on. People are talking about the economic genocide, the economic discrimination against members of the opposition, the giving away of monies to supporters of the PPP. People are talking about extrajudicial killings, and they want a party that can address those issues. And is the WPA that type of party?
the WPA has been in the forefront since November 1 of
Yes.
confronting those issues.
Yeah.
All right. We have taken people to the streets. We have had protests in Buxton, in Golden Grove, in Victoria, in Georgetown, and we are constantly on these public media campaigns to highlight the conditions of Guyanese and to bring to people's attention the ills that they are currently facing because of the nature of the PVPC administration. But I think the important thing is that the members of the WPA have a track record of struggling for people on behalf of people, and that is historical. All right. And we don't have that baggage to carry that many of these other politicians have in terms of their alignment to the ideas of partisan politics, the history that they might have had because of the background of the political parties from which they would have come, but also because we are in an era where you need a political party that is going to bring something new to the politics of this country. For too long, we've been so tied up with this race baiting and the racist connection in politics. And that is precisely the reason why we are falling to the wayside. Kidaki explained that because people believe that if they come on board with the WPA, that they're going to be giving the opportunity to either the PVP or the PNC to win the election. But the experience is that even with one person in the parliament, WPA has demonstrated that it can be a force to reckon with one single candidate. What happens, therefore, if it is given a bigger voice and people begin to understand that they are the ones who can give WPA that voice and make it even more relevant as an advocate on their behalf?
Kiraki Amsterdam, let me get you back in. And I'm throwing the same question to you. Why, given all we know about where people are at this moment politically, make the case why the WPA is a party that people should throw their support behind?
All right, let me put it in they say good things come in small packages. I'm trying to remember who said we small but we hot. Right? We small but we hot. Following the declaration of the elections results, let me start from there. WPA from the word go has been in the forefront of dealing with all of the fallouts of the elections. Not only have we been going to communities, not only have we been organizing protest actions, not only have we been educating people via this platform and so on, but we have been in the forefront in terms of identifying what the issues were or are with elections and the declarations and so on, and trying to bring solutions to the people. We have also been identifying or standing up and demanding for the people. For example, we have the what we commonly call the Buxton proposal, right?
That's the cash grant by Professor Clive Thomas,
Yes,
which is an idea that has been put forward to deal with the question of ensuring that oil money can go to working class people. Go.
Right. And every time an issue raises its head, an issue of national import, or an issue which affects a particular section of the Guyanese people, WPA representatives are always in front there and willing to deal with it. You mentioned the issue of race. Over the years and currently, WPA is the only political party in this country, I dare say, that confronts the race issue without fear, right? It addresses it and it calls it as it sees it. With all of the discriminatory practices in terms of the giving out of the grants and so on, WPA voices have been in the forefront there again, highlighting because of our meetings in the communities where discrimination is rampant, how it is affecting people, and so on. And so WPA is, by doing all of this work, puts itself out there as willing to work for the people. And so if you are looking for a political party that has the people's interest at heart, in this year, I'm saying that WPA is the party that you should join. Because, as I said, we small, but we hot. If there are more numbers behind what we represent, then the possibility is the impact will be great.
Okay. Thank you. We know that you, Kidaki Amsterdam, you do a lot of work on the media, the social media in the mornings. Professor Clive Thomas does a column. Dion Abrams does community work. He hosts the WPA program. Desmond Trotman is on GCOM. Yours truly pitches in here and there. We know that. And you may be alluding to that as WPA, but in the public consciousness, that's not WPA, that's individuals. How is the WPA bringing all of that together and saying this is a party that is ready to deal with the issues of the day? How is the WPA going to mobilize differently from, let's say, the AFC or the PNC? How does the WPA use the cash transfer? You've put it out there, it's going to be left there. Are you all going to fight for it? Are you all going into communities with it? That's the kind of stuff I'm trying to get you all to tell the audience here this evening. And I know of the WPA track record, I'm sure a lot of people do. Then we're at a particular moment in history, and we have 3 opposition parties. All of you all getting abused left, right, and center for not engaging the people. And I'm saying WPA want the people to stop abusing you all. What do you all propose to do? We hear your track record, but track record get you thus far. All right, I'm coming back to you, Ali Majid. If someone in this audience is looking for an opposition political party to throw his support behind, to contribute to financially and otherwise, why should it be the WPA and not the AFC or the PNC?
Okay, let me say this. The politics in this country essentially is largely ethnically divided. A lot of people who support parties, either the PNC or the PPP, they do it from this perspective. I've heard both Kidaki and Dion explain, I think, adequately the WPA's role over the years.
Right.
But you said that you heard the track record. The thing about it is that the WPA is a party who have not been involved in any corruption.
Yes, we got that. Who are you all targeting? Is there a particular group in the society that you all want to work with? Are you all want to work with young people? Are you all going to bring crossover votes from East Indians? Are you all going to work in what is your party going to contribute to the moment?
Yeah, the question you're asking there is a very difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to work to get what they consider crossover votes.
Okay.
That would mean other races. I don't know which is the dominant race you're speaking about, but we're talking about all other races into the WPA. We have been mobilizing around trade union and workers and encouraging those kind of people who have difficulty and challenges to able to defend themselves and defend their rights. Out of those engagements, we hope that there's an understanding or a realization among those people who we interacted with that the WPA is the party to go with. I just want to give this anecdote from 1992 election. 1992 elections, the WPA, after a long campaign, and we thought we had it, but we recognized working on election day in 1992, we had seen what the voters wanted. So I'm saying this to you to let you know that people, apart from what you would tell them, they got a particular thing in their heads of what they want. And persons, I think it's Kadaki alluded to it, some people already made up their minds of where they're going, and they perhaps using our parties to help them out at a particular juncture. There's much more we can do, to my mind, except plugging at it and continue to engage in people.
In case you're just joining us, you're viewing Politics 101. Tonight we're talking with executive members of the WPA and trying to find out from them what the party is doing, how the party wants to situate itself in the party in the present moment. We have our executive member, Kidaki Amsterdam, Dion Abrams, and Ali Majid. We are coming down to program time. And so I'll give each of you an opportunity for final thoughts. Dion, starting with you.
Yeah, well, David, the WPA is willing to work with any individual. All right, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're male, female, from whatever background you've come. Once you understand what WPA stands for, and that you're coming to bring to the table something that will be an attempt to move Guyana from the place where it is. And the WPA has always held the view that we need to move away from this racial, politics that we are engaged in. And it's from that background that we've focused on multiracial politics. And we're hopeful that we can reach that place where the people, even though they want it to happen, that they can understand that it will not happen if they continue to be bound by the belief that if they support the WPA, that it's going to be detrimental to their own political ethnic grouping. What has to happen is for them to see the WPA for what it is, a force that can only be developed to its potential by them coming on board and being part of something that is different, that doesn't carry the baggage of the other political parties. And so we will have to continue to plug and to bring to them the ideas, fresh ideas that we've been bringing to them over time, and hope that these ideas will eventually convert them to a position that, look, this is the place where I want to be. I mean, we're not evangelists. We're not bringing a God message, but we have been bringing to the people ideas to transform this country. And if we are given the opportunity by the people, then the reality of the messages that we have been putting out there can be effective. It's only by doing that that we can.
Dion Abrams there, WPA executive member. Comment here, next election, I'm voting WPA straight up. And all WPA members says, hey, what conditions will the WPA demand or negotiate with the coalition to prevent the recurrence of what happened in the past? Tired of the PPP and the PNC, WPA is the way to go now. The cash transfer idea, this is another comment, is huge, and WPA should keep pounding away on that issue because it separates them from the two big parties. I wonder, no, what is this here? I missed that here. So those are some of the comments here. Kidaki Amsterdam, your closing views, thoughts?
Well, let me say, to start with, like Dion said, the WPA is open to working with any Guyanese, any citizen who wants to move this country forward. You spoke about the track record of the WPA. The WPA has always shown itself to be on the side of the working class. The WPA has always been willing to work with groups in this country that are willing to move the country forward. I like to refer to the period when WPA was part of all kinds of coalitions trying to deal with the quote-unquote Burnham dictatorship, getting rid of the PNC in the 80s and so on. And now in this era, the WPA is willing to work with any group to deal with the PPP's dictatorship and abuse of power in this country. What citizens need to recognize is we are in a period where, like I said earlier, coalition politics is the way to go. And so throwing your support behind the WPA is not necessarily weakening the PNC, for example, right? It's not necessarily weakening them. As a matter of fact, it might be strengthening them. Because I hear from time immemorial, WPA is the intellectual party. WPA got some bright people. The intellectual people and the bright people that you constantly refer to have been doing political work in this country with the aim of seeing the country move forward. What the WPA wants is the support. WPA has never been tried by itself at government. WPA has never won an election to govern and manage the resources of this country. We know what the PNC has brought. We know what the PPP has brought. Maybe the time is now to take a leap of faith, if you want to call it that, to throw your support behind the WPA in a time when it certainly will have to work with some other political force if it is going to govern this country, if it is going to manage the resources of this country. And I'm saying that if you've been trying one thing or two things all the time and they have not been working, then there can be no harm in trying the third thing. And the WPA is present. You're seeing the work that its members are doing. Much more can be done, but it will require not only capital resources, but human resources. And I'm encouraging you, join the WPA, put your shoulders to the wheel, and let us work together and change what needs changing in this country. In closing, let me say that WPA has constantly, over the years, called for constitutional reform in this country, because we recognize that a lot of the problems which we are faced with, which we have to deal with day in, day out, right, has to, a lot of those problems have to do with constitutional shortcomings. And so far, none of the two political parties, the PNC, neither the PPP, has shown a willingness to address the constitutional issue. They've played lip service to it. But they have not willingly addressed it. And WPA has kept that issue on the front burner all the time. Like, we intend to keep the cash transfer and equality and equity for citizens in this country on the front burner. Put your voices to join yours with WPA, and so we can have a bigger voice and see how we can turn this country around.
And Ali Majid, your thoughts?
I want to say the WPA of today is just as the WPA of yesterday and yesteryear. The WPA has consistently represented the salt of the earth in this country. We at all times have been the conscience of this society. I want to say, were it not for the presence of the WPA, I do not know what would have happened in this country vis-a-vis the two main parties, the PPP and the PNC. While people will call us a small party, and they see us as we just a fringe or something like that, they need to step back and look at the importance of us we playing in holding this society, the fabric of this society together. We continue to have the interests of the people of this country, and we continue to defend the interests of the people of this country. As it was said earlier in this program, there were protests on the East Coast and many other places by many WPA activists. We continue to do that work. If we are to go into coalition in the future, we would want our hands to be strengthened, so to speak. We would want, when we get into coalition, we're talking to those people in the coalition. Look, we are talking here, represented so many thousand people, and they're not going to deal with us as though we just hangs on there. So we're saying, we asking the people out there, you know what was the WPA over the years? We continue to be the same. So we're asking you to throw your support behind us and give us the strength that we need to move forward in the country. Thank
Ali
you.
Majid, executive member of the Working People's Alliance. I want to thank Kedaki Amsterdam, Dion Abrams, Ali Majid for coming on tonight and reintroducing the party to our audience. I'm sure that you have left them with quite a bit. And to you, the audience, I want to thank you all for staying with us. I want to say this. Third parties in Guyana have a role to play. And that role has to be a role of picking up the pieces when they have been thrown by other forces and running with it. But parties like the WPA need to become part and parcel of the mainstream of our politics. I want to say that the challenge for the WPA and other third parties is whether they are able to speak to the hearts and the minds of the people of Guyana. To say to them that there is a place for parties that speak to the surface of your consciousness. But there is also a role for parties that speak to you deep in your consciousness. A third party must be able to say, Black people are being taken advantage of. And we as a party who always stand with the disadvantaged will stand with you in your hour of want, in your hour of advantage being taken on you. The WPA and other small parties must be able to stand up and deal with the issues that the big parties do not want to deal with. They're about local content for businessmen. What about local content for working people? We have a proposal, the most revolutionary proposal that has been put on the table, the cash transfer, that will push cash in the hands of poor people. You come on board the WPA, you're helping us to agitate for resources for you, because we are the only party that is going to push for that cash transfer. So you're asking, why should you join us? Because we are the party that is going to fight for that oil money, some of it to go in your pocket. You are joining us so that we can fight for your children and your grandchildren. We are not a party that's going to be afraid to say Black people are being taken advantage of. We are not a party that is going to stand idly by and say that the way you deal with extrajudicial killing is to reform the police. No. The way you deal with extrajudicial killings is that you say to the government that is facilitating that if you kill another Black person, we will mobilize that community in a way that they have never been mobilized before to stop you from going further. There is a role for the WPA. I don't think the WPA minds you calling them, you all calling them a radical party. Radical means the root, R-O-O-T, that we go to the root of the problem. And so therefore, our objective is not to compete with other parties. There's a role for all parties. And if people are comfortable with the PNC, then that's fine. There are those of you who are not necessarily comfortable with the PNC. We want you to be on the side of justice. And so therefore, you may be more comfortable with us. So that when you empower the AFC, the WPA, and the PNC together, we will hold hands and hearts together and move the process forward. Ultimately, we will have to hold hands with those who East Indians and mostly vote for, and talk about the PPP. Ultimately, we have to get there. But we have to build a coalition of the willing. And that coalition will have to pressure the PPP to change. And when they change, we all could hold hands together and move our country forward so that it's a place for all of us. The WPA has a mission. We have a track record, but times have moved on. We cannot be the party that we were in 79. We cannot be the party that we were in 1999. We have to be a party for 2021, holding on to our principles, but listening to the cries of the people. bringing you on board so you can fight for yourself, self-organization. There are two forms of support. Those of you who join and say, I want to be a member. But you don't necessarily have to join, you can be a supporter. And that is what is important. To support the party. Parties need resources. They need ideas. Support us by lending us your ideas. Support us with resources that you may have at your disposal. We want to come into a community. Help us to organize a meeting. You don't have to come in and be a member. We can't for you to come. But if you're in Firish or you are in Evershan or you're in Hope Town and you want David Hines and Kinaki and Professor Thomas to come there to speak to your village, organize that for us. That's support. So that's what we're calling on you to consider, that there is a role for a party like the WPA. There's a role for third parties. There are issues, there are attitudes that we can take. There are attitudes that we can bring to the table that other parties may not be in a position. You see the licks that they're trying to, that Aubrey Norton is getting, they're trying to say he's a black leader and all that kind of stuff, you know, there's that suggestion, you know. We in the WPA are not afraid to be called black leaders. The black leaders in the WPA are not afraid to be called black leaders. We're a multiracial party, but we're not a foolish party. We're a party that believes ultimately all Guyanese have a place at the table. But when we look around and we say, which group in the Guyanese society is being beaten over their heads every day? There was a time when we answered the call to defend the Indian Guyanese community, and we did. There's a time when we answered the call to defend the Amerindian community, and we did. And part of the call that we have to answer today is to help to defend one section of the community that has been left to fend for their own. And if there is one thing that we can assure you, we will not be afraid to confront that. We will not be afraid in confronting what is happening to African Guyanese. We are confronting good over evil. We are pushing back against the evil of racist politics. And so that's where I want to leave it. I was not a panelist tonight, but as a WPA member, I thought I will put in my 2 cents. Good night, and have a good weekend. Get some relaxation. On Monday, Mr. Harmon is going to be here to talk about the PNC. On Tuesday, GCOM guys are going to be here. Desmond Trotman, Vincent Alexander, and my friend Roysdale Ford is going to be here to talk about his run for the chairmanship of the PNC. Politics 101, all inclusive, because 1-1 Dotty Bildam, and we all in the same boat. Good night.
Please help keep Politics 101 on social media and broadcast television. If you are in North America, please donate via Cash App or PayPal.
If you are in Guyana and the Caribbean and don't have access to Cash App and PayPal, email your pledge to dhines6106@aol.com and we will direct you how to get your donation to us. Thank you in advance for your donation.